You hear it everywhere, right? Fake news. It's just exploded into our conversations, really shapes how we talk politics, media, even what we think is actually true.
It really has. It's a term that carries so much weight now.
Used to praise, sometimes condemn, or just dismiss things entirely.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is how it started, as a way to talk about actual hoaxes and then transformed into this, potent political weapon. It's fundamentally changed how we see information.
Right. So today, we're doing one of our deep dives into this. It's a challenging topic, frankly. We want to focus on how fake news was weaponized, particularly by former President Donald Trump.
Right. We'll look at where the term really came from, the specific tactics used to, discredit traditional media.
And the fallout, the reactions, the implications, especially for news outlets like CNN, which often found itself right in the middle of it.
And for this, we've pulled together quite a bit. We're looking at academic work, white papers, analyzing Trump's Twitter use, for example, plus broader analyses on social media's impact, and recent news reports that detail these, confrontations between political figures and news outlets.
So our mission here is really to unpack all these complex interactions.
Yeah, reveal the strategies, understand what it all means for how we get our news, and frankly, how we participate in politics today.
So if you've ever felt just overwhelmed by...
Exactly. Not quite the political label it became later. It often referred to things created just for money, like, remember that BuzzFeed report?
Oh, yeah, the one about the Macedonian websites.
That's the one. Over 140 pro-Trump websites run out of Velas, Macedonia, just churning out fabricated news stories, basically, for ad revenue.
And the crazy part was how well they did, right?
It's incredible. Those fake stories often got more engagement on Facebook shares, reactions, comments than the top election stories from, 19 major actual news outlets combined.
Wow. That really tells you something about how easily false information could spread even then.
Absolutely. The power of sensationalism, maybe, even when it's totally made up.
So that's the backdrop. Then President-elect Trump comes in and, he takes the term and really changes its meaning, intensifies it.
He does. He adopts it, makes it fake news, often capitalized, and points it directly at the fake news media. This starts around December 2016, January 2017.
And his main tool was his personal Twitter account, right? @RealDonaldTrump.
Absolutely. That was the primary channel. And the amplification, it was just staggering. The data shows for every one time Trump used fake news between early 2017 and mid-2018.
Yeah.
The term appeared about 100,000 times in other U.S. Twitter posts.
100,000 times. It just caught fire. Became his signature phrase against the media establishment.
A real rallying cry.
Yeah.
And his language was very direct. You might remember that statement at the VFW convention in July 2018.
Vaguely, remind me.
He said, just stick with us. Don't believe the crap you see from these people, the fake news. And just remember, what you're seeing and what you're reading is not what's happening.
Right. That's a pretty explicit instruction to distrust anything outside his circle.
Extremely direct. And our sources actually break down the strategy behind this. They identify 8 key tactics he used consistently against the media, though usually excluding Fox News.
8 tactics. Okay, let's look at a few. What stands out?
Well, what's remarkable is how they work together, creating this sort of echo chamber.
Yeah.
But individually, take demonization. This was about painting the media as fundamentally dishonest. Like that tweet from February 2017. He called the New York Times, NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN
the enemy of the American people. I remember that one.
Exactly. He claimed they don't even try to get it right. It wasn't just criticism. It was aimed at completely undermining their legitimacy.
Then there was division, setting up an us versus them.
Precisely. Us, meaning Trump and the American people, against them, the fake news media, and often the Democrats. After a Republican win in a special election, Karen Handel, he tweeted something like, all the fake news, all the money spent, Easertown.
Clearly framing it as a battle between his side and the media, fostering that in-group loyalty.
Definitely. And then you have distortion, using false or, exaggerated claims.
Like the inauguration crowd size estimates. That was right at the start.
That's a classic example.
Right.
It wasn't just about making a claim. It felt like asserting a whole alternative reality right from day one.
And what about reversal? That sounds interesting.
Yeah, this one's quite sophisticated. It's where he'd attribute qualities to others that he himself was maybe exhibiting. Think about how often he linked fake news with the witch hunt regarding the Russia investigation.
Ah, so accusing others of a witch hunt as a way to deflect.
Kind of like conducting a witch hunt by means of crying witch hunt, as one source put it. It weaponizes projection, makes it really hard to counter.
So with all these tactics being used so consistently, how did people react online, in the media?
Well, online, many people absolutely mirrored Trump's aggressive style. Lots of back and forth, fact-checking assertions flying around, often aimed at opponents.
But not much stepping back to look at the bigger picture.
That's what the sources suggest. These sort of reality check statements trying to connect the specific argument to broader issues or consequences, those were apparently quite rare. It stayed very much in the realm of the immediate fight.
And did this affect public trust overall?
Seems like it, yeah. A Gallup Knight Foundation survey back in January 2018 found 56% of people thought fake news was a very serious threat to democracy.
Over half the country. That clearly shows this constant messaging had a real impact, eroding confidence.
Definitely. Which brings us nicely to CNN. Their experience really highlights how these dynamics played out on the ground.
Right. CNN's perception has always been a bit mixed, hasn't it? Some see it left, some more centrist historically.
Exactly. But what's interesting is, more recently, say, the last year or so, some observers have suggested maybe a slight shift rightward.
Oh, really? In headlines, coverage?
Yeah, some commentators think so, attributing it perhaps to the new ownership, David Zaslav, aiming for maybe a more centrist position.
But does that change how it's viewed by its critics?
Well, that's the key point. Despite any potential internal shifts, for many traditional conservative outlets, and certainly for many users on platforms like TikTok, CNN is still very much seen as the opposition, as fake news.
So the label sticks, regardless.
It seems deeply entrenched. You see comments all the time saying CNN silences views it doesn't like, or it's just fake news and hates America.
Yeah.
That perception often overrides everything else.
And this plays out in these really public, sometimes fiery on-air moments, like that town hall with Trump and Caitlin Collins.
Oh, yeah. That generated a lot of commentary. People like Carl Higbie over on Newsmax were saying Trump wiped the floor with her, arguing he thrives in that kind of confrontation, needs to go into enemy territory and drop bombs, I think was the phrase used.
And during the town hall itself?
Trump was very direct, called Collins a nasty person, accused her of lecturing. He even brought out papers, receipts, he called them, about his January 6th statements, trying to directly counter CNN's narrative.
And the audience reaction.
That was notable, too. Standing ovations, laughter, even from people who maybe weren't initially his supporters. It showed how those direct clashes really resonated with some viewers, often framed as wins for Trump against the media.
It wasn't just that one instance either. Abby Phillip on CNN, she often has conservative guests on Newsnight, right? And things can get heated.
Very much so. There was that chaotic moment recently, remember, when Touré, the podcast host, suggested Trump wasn't actually shot in the ear at that rally.
Right, and she had to step in and correct him directly on air.
Yeah, Touré, he was shot in the ear.
Yeah.
It just highlights the tightrope journalist walk, trying to manage factual accuracy amid really strong opinions.
And conservative commentators often push back hard on her show.
Sometimes, yeah. Scott Jennings, for instance. You see social media chatter describing him as checking or even obliterating other panelists or Phillip herself. There was that time Matt Gaetz fact-checked her on a defense bill vote.
And she had to say, well, I stand corrected.
Exactly. And these moments get clipped, shared, and amplified online.
Like those TikTok videos, I've seen some portraying her as humiliated for cutting off Trump aides like Tammy Bruce.
Right. And those clips often come with commentary framing Bruce as, a former Democrat and a lesbian who just got sick of the nonsense on the left, a gay conservative. These edited narratives, they really fuel that perception of media bias, regardless of the full context.
It's fascinating how these moments get packaged and spun online.
Absolutely. But what's also really interesting is something CNN itself reported recently. A sort of surprising shift, as some called it.
What was that?
On CNN Newsroom, their senior political commentator, Scott Jennings, same one we just mentioned, explicitly stated that Trump's support among the Republican base is stronger than ever.
Stronger than ever, based on their own polling.
Yeah, citing a new CNN poll, he said it couldn't go up much higher because they're so good already.
Wow. That's quite a statement, especially given some of the chatter, even among some Fox News fans, apparently, about the end of MAGA.
Exactly. It even led a Democratic strategist on the same panel, Chuck Rocha, to admit seeing cracks in Democratic motivation for the midterms.
Yeah.
So CNN acknowledging that base strength is, well, it's a significant data point.
And that poll also touched on the Jeffrey Epstein case.
It did. Showed 50% of Americans weren't satisfied with the information available on that, which, as you know, has been a real point of friction and suspicion, especially within the MAGA base, toward the administration.
All these dynamics, They clearly point to a much bigger picture about our information landscape, don't they?
They really do. It leads us straight into this reality of a very polarized, kind of fractured information environment. Pew Research has done a lot of work on this.
What do they find about media habits?
It paints a really stark picture. Consistent conservatives, as Q calls them, are highly concentrated around just one main news source.
Fox News.
Pretty much. Nearly half, 47%, cite Fox News as their main source. And crucially, they tend to distrust most other news sources much more. It creates a very specific information bubble.
And how does that compare to liberals?
Well, consistent liberals are quite different. They rely on a much wider range of sources, NPR, the New York Times, others, and they generally express trust in more outlets overall.
So, less concentration, more variety. What about people in the middle?
Those with mixed ideological views tend to use more centrist sources or aggregators. Think CNN, local TV news, Yahoo News, Google News. But the key takeaway is this fragmentation, different groups trusting vastly different information sources.
And social media just pours fuel on that fire, right? Creates those echo chambers.
Absolutely. It amplifies the divisions.
Yeah.
Pew found, for example, that consistent conservatives on Facebook are much more likely to see political opinions they already agree with in their feeds.
And liberals?
Consistent liberals, interestingly, were found to be more likely to actually block or defriend someone because of political disagreements. So, different ways of managing the echo chamber, perhaps.
And the tone online reflects the political rhetoric.
Very much so. User responses often mirror that aggressive style. Lots of intemperate language, what the sources call vicarious fighting. Fact checks are common, as we said.
But not those broader reality checks.
Right. Those attempts to connect the dots to bigger issues seem much rarer online. It stays very combative, very specific.
So at the end of the day, what's the impact of all this? The weaponized fake news term, the deep polarization.
The impact is significant. It poses fundamental challenges to, well, American democracy. When basic facts become points of contention or are deliberately obscured,
it erodes everything else. The ability to criticize power, hold institutions accountable, even just have a reasoned debate.
Exactly. The real danger, as our sources point out, is if these communication techniques, the demonization, the distortion, the division, just become normalized, accepted as standard practice.
Because that could lead to a public that's just disconnected
From reliable, shared information.
Yeah.
And maybe increasingly unable to engage in the kind of meaningful civic discussion that democracy relies on. It's a really profound shift.
So to recap, we've traced how fake news went from describing hoaxes to being this political weapon. We looked at the tactics used to undermine media legitimacy.
And those intense, almost performative clashes, especially involving CNN. We've seen how it all plays out online, reinforcing this really divided information landscape.
It leaves you thinking, doesn't it? In an age where information is so easily manipulated, amplified, distorted, what's our role as news consumers?
That's the big question, isn't it? What's our responsibility in trying to sort out the truth from the spectacle? And maybe more pointedly, how do our own choices, what we choose to read, watch, share, how do they actually feed into or maybe push back against this polarization we've been talking about?
Definitely something to chew on as we try to navigate it all.